morning or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. This is day 12 of Reinventing Your Career. If you're coming back to the series, welcome back. Yesterday, we had an amazing session with Kareem Rogers, the Fit Recruiter, and he shared a lot of insight in terms of what recruiters look for when they are looking at resumes or they're looking at applications of people who are making career changes. So if you missed yesterday's conversation, do go back on my page to find the live session that took place yesterday with Kareem Rogers. It was very insightful. Today, we're continuing along the same lines, focusing on resumes. So, the next couple of days of the Reinventing Your Career series, as I told you, it's a 30-day series, and I'm helping you make a career change before the end of the year. And so, for the next couple of days, we're going to focus specifically on resumes. So, today I am sharing on how to write a resume when you're making a career change. In tomorrow's session, I'll talk about some of the common mistakes people make when they're making a career change, when they're developing their resume. And we'll also get into just what your resume should essentially look like for a career change. So we'll do at least 3 or 4 days on this topic because it is where a lot of people get stuck when they're looking to make a career change. And I love resumes. I love all things resumes. I started in this industry as a resume writer. So, I'm a certified resume strategist. That is a thing. So I completely love resumes. It's something I can talk about for hours and hours. I know it seems like it's a very dull topic, but yes, I love talking about resumes. So if you do have any questions as well, drop them in the chat. I will be more than happy to respond. So you're looking to make a career change. You've watched some of the previous sessions, you've identified your strengths, you've identified your transferable skills, you have a strong sense of what your brand is, and now you want to actually write it out in your resume. So some of the things to keep in mind, the first thing is the first half of your resume. This came up really briefly in yesterday's conversation with Kareem, but think about yourself. When you open a Word document, the first thing you see on the screen is the first half of the screen of the document. So that's the most important part of your resume. And you want to make sure that you're providing enough insight about who you are and what you have to offer in that first half of your resume. A lot of times you've probably seen the statistics that recruiters spend 6 seconds or 11 seconds going through resumes, but essentially it's not that they're just skimming and scanning through each one. You initially have to do that. Even yourself, when you're looking for something online, you open an article, you take a few seconds to decide, hey, is this something that's worth my time? Is this something I'm actually going to read through, or is this something I'm going to skip to the next one? And that's essentially what they're doing as well. They're taking those few initial seconds to determine, is this something I want to spend my time reading? Is this candidate someone I should reach out to? So you knowing that first half of your resume needs to really showcase who you are and what you have to offer. So the top of your resume should have a summary of qualifications. In the past, we used to do an objective statement. An objective statement was you basically saying, I am looking for a role as this, or I'm making a career change and I am looking to be a program manager. So that's what we used to do in the past, which was called an objective statement. I still see a lot of people who have objective statements on their resumes. We no longer do that. That is an outdated practice. Instead, what you need is a summary of qualifications. The summary of qualifications should essentially outline what do you offer, and you're aligning that with the need that the company has. You've had the time to do your research, as I taught you in the previous steps, to better understand the role, better understand the needs the company has. So you have that insight already. So basically, you're taking your skills, your background, and then you're taking the need that the company has, and you're demonstrating that I am the person who's going to solve the problem that you have. And you're doing that in a few lines, so just 4 to 5 lines max that you should have for your resume summary of qualifications. And that's how you're going to state your unique value proposition, that you are the person for the job, and that needs to go at the top of your resume. So that's one thing to pay attention to, especially if you're someone who's making a career change. Your summary of qualifications needs to be clear, and it needs to outline how you're the solution to the problem that the company has. Another thing to keep in mind is that you want to be able to translate your experience and not just state various things that you've done in the past. So, if you're looking at your resume, for example, and you go through the experience section, a lot of times what people do is they just list a bunch of things that they've done. I've done this, I've done that, and they're talking more about responsibilities. We want to take things a level further, and you actually want to talk about your achievements and the impact that you've made in the companies that you worked with. So that's what should be in your experience section. In addition to that, because you're making a career change, it's very important for you to be able to translate your experience into the language of this new industry or this new role that you're trying to get into. So it's not just about you saying, I've worked here, I've worked there. You need to show the recruiter, the hiring manager, that this experience that you have brings value to this new role that you're being considered for. You need to do that work. They're not the ones that are going to do the guessing, because as I've told you, and the stats tell us as well, that they spend about 6 to 13 seconds looking at a resume. So you can't expect that, oh, they should see this and they should understand that I can do the job. And this is a conversation I have with a lot of my clients where they're like, but the information is there. The information is there. I don't understand why they can't see that I'm the ideal person for the role. You need to spell it out. You need to really make it clear, articulate that this experience that you have, especially for a career changer, where sometimes your experience doesn't directly align, you need to spell it out. Especially yesterday, Kareem was telling us some recruiters may not know the industry, they may not know the background, they may be new or whatever it may be. There's a lot of reasons, right? The hiring manager, who's more of the subject matter expert, has that expertise, has the background, but not the recruiter who is looking at many roles and for many opportunities. So keep that in mind, that you really need to be clear about translating your experience from your previous industry or your previous role into the new one that you're trying to get into. Keep the achievements clear. Make sure you're speaking about results, and you're also talking about impact when you are talking about your experience on your resume. So I'm just going to look at the chat here. Hello to everyone joining. I see a couple of people coming in. If you are just joining us now, we're talking about resumes to be able to make a career change. If you're in the process of making a career change, let me know in the chat, like what stage you're at. Have you received any callbacks? Have you sent any resumes out yet? How's the transition going, and what kind of results are you seeing so far? So let me know how that's going in the chat. And give me one moment. Okay, perfect. So let's continue. The other thing you want to keep in mind is your transferable skills. So there's different ways you can do this. There's not a one size fits all to resume writing. And that's something I want you to know, that, a lot of times you'll go online and you'll see different people giving different resume advice. It's not that they're all wrong or they're all contradicting each other. It's just that your resume really depends on what you're trying to achieve with your career. There is no one size fits all to resume writing. You have to do what works for you based on where you are at and your experience. There are certain things that are general practices. I won't call them rules. I'll call them practices that are applicable for various reasons. The ATS, because of cultural standards. For example, I work with clients globally, and the standards are very different when I'm working with my North American clients versus when I'm working with my African clients. So the standards may differ, but at the end of the day, you need to ensure that your resume fits what you're trying to achieve with your career. So keeping that in mind, There are different types of resumes, and a functional resume is a type of resume that just speaks about your skills. Typically, it's recommended for people who are at entry level, who don't have experience yet, so they focus more on their skills. A chronological resume, this is the resume that everybody's used to seeing, where you just state your most recent experience first and you kind of just go all the way to the oldest experience. So for a career change, there is a world where you can create a hybrid resume. And the reason why you would create a hybrid resume is to really have that opportunity to showcase at the beginning of the resume a career highlights section or a skills section that really speaks to how your skills are transferable from your previous industry into the new industry. So, something to keep in mind if you're someone who has the skills, but they may not necessarily go into every part of the experience that you've had in the past, is that you can consider adding a career highlight section or a skills section and detail how your skills are transferable from the previous industry into the new industry. So that is another strategy that you can definitely use as a career changer. I would not suggest that you make your full resume just about skills. I would suggest that you make a hybrid resume where you talk about the skills and you still talk about your experience. Because most of the people who are making career changes here, if you're talking about career change, then you have some experience, right? You already had some experience in another industry, and I don't want you to discount that. That's still worth something. But you're going to leverage that and also add to the fact that you have these skills that you may have not yet been able to fully utilize in your past work experience, but you may have used elsewhere. So that's why you're creating this career highlight section. So, day 12 of Reinventing Your Career. It was amazing having today's session with you all. And I'm going to be back tomorrow. We're going to continue the conversation on resumes because it's a big topic. And it's quite important for people who are making career changes to be able to articulate their skills properly on their resume. Because at the end of the day, your resume needs to be able to tell your story. It needs to convey the message of what you're bringing to the table. And as much as a lot of people want to say resumes are not important, they do make quite a difference in your job search. So we will continue the conversation tomorrow on resumes, and I will see you then. Take care, everyone.